even Cassie now. So if you're innocent, why y'all lawyering up? That is like, I sound manic. No, I'm not. I don't have mania. I'm sorry. No offense. That's a really weird thing to say. No offense. Even Cassie now. So weird thing to say. No offense. I'm just talking. I have been kind of quiet all day. I did 2 videos and most of this was just even Cassie now. So and paying attention to Twitter and stuff. So I'm just I'm venting with y'all. I'm just having a chat with you. It's been, it's really bizarre. Like if my son was missing and he's 9, almost 9, I would be, even if everyone hated me, I would be freaking pounding the pavement. I would be knocking on every door. I would be putting up missing if he was, wanted by police. I would be doing everything I can to ensure that he was coming back. I would certainly not be so quiet, so mellow, and so just, I don't even know. The way that they're acting is so off weird. It's so weird. And I wouldn't care if millions of people hated me. Y'all, I got some haters. And I got a lot of haters. And if all of my haters legit showed up at my house and were outside, I wouldn't even care. If my son was missing, I would be, screw the haters. I'm going to go find my son. Because who cares if America hates you if your loved one is missing? Who cares? Who cares? Yeah, so yeah, for sure. I was watching this FBI agent who was being interviewed by Brian Enton, and she was basically saying they're not acting like parents that have a child that's missing at all. Love watching you. Oh, thanks, Gloria. It's just not normal behavior. And I would not be able to sleep. I would not be able to, think about this, you guys. This is a child, a man-child. I'm starting to think that Brian Laundrie was a man-child. Do any of you get this sense about Brian Laundrie? That he was this guy that was so unmotivated and such a doof that literally didn't want to have a job and he wanted to live off Gabby. Did any of you have a boyfriend like that when you were in your early 20s that literally wanted you to do all the work and then they could live off your income and then they could have the life that they wanted to live? That's what Brian reminds me of. He reminds me of the guy that wants the girl to finance everything for him so that he can live his whatever lifestyle it is that he wants, that nomadic van, doing nothing with the world. There's so many guys that fall into that in their early 20s. They grow from being a child and then they become a man child and they expect their woman to do everything for them. And he reminds me a lot of my ex, who was abusive in that respect. My ex was the exact same way. Didn't want to have a job. I had to pay for everything. I had to save for everything. I was always paying for rent. I was always paying our bills. That's how Brian Laundrie reminds me of. So if he's been this dependent, and then y'all, can we just stop here for a second? Because if you're dating a guy and you're that young, this is the advice I would have given myself. I would give to my younger self. You don't deserve to be with a guy that expects you to pay for everything at all. You really don't. You deserve better than that. And if a guy can't, there's a few things in life that you should have and you should want your man to have, and that's a job and a car, some stability, something productive in life. He just seems like a loser. Which also makes me wonder, what was she attracted to about him? There's just this very odd aura about this family. So odd. So many red flags. And it's no wonder that Gabby's parents really didn't have a relationship with them. Can you really blame them? Yeah, no job, expects everything to be handed to him. Any video of the family. So the family did leave the park together, I guess. I don't know. You guys, the whole dog, the bounty hunter thing, it became a massive distraction. And I think I do think that the FBI might have talked to him or somebody in the investigation, because capital murder cases are very, especially if it's going to be a federal murder case, are extremely important to the FBI, and they can carry the death penalty, and the FBI isn't going to want anyone interfering in that investigation. And because it's an active investigation, it's not just a manhunt, but it's also an active, homicide investigation. You can't interfere in the investigation by potentially spoiling evidence for the feds. It's great that we got some clues from Dog, but at the end of the day, what if he would have found something that would have spoiled the evidence, which would have led to Brian fleeing, Brian killing himself, Brian destroying evidence? No, I think that he got talked to because Dog went from really hyping everything up to he hasn't said a damn word in 2 days, and he's barely said a thing, and I just think that's probably why. I think the FBI might have talked to him. I mean, he might still be out there, but he's not saying anything. He's not doing those videos anymore. And I think, contamination of evidence, destruction of evidence, obstruction of you guys, obstruction of justice is that's a thing. You can obstruct justice if you interfere in an FBI investigation. Oh, well, hi. Oh, Rita. Oh my gosh, you guys. Can I show you something? Someone sent this to me. Hold on. Oh, Rita, please. She's really stressed out right now because it's raining. I didn't save it. One of my followers bought one of the Frida shirts, one of my merch, and it was so cute. And I was going to share it, and I forgot to share it. It's so cute. Oh, I don't doubt that Dog is still not. Nobody's doubting that Dog is still not there. He's just not saying anything publicly, and I think that's because the FBI might have said something to him. The FBI doesn't arrest people very quickly. That's what other people get really upset about with this investigation. This is not like the police. So the police will arrest you before they actually build their case, because they will arrest you based on probable cause. But the feds will not necessarily arrest based on probable cause. They arrest on grand jury indictments. And in order to get a grand jury indictment, you actually have to prove your case and prove the charges before you can actually go to the grand jury. So that's why the FBI is they do everything in backwards to the police. So the police will arrest someone and then build the case based on probable cause. And the FBI doesn't arrest until they have the indictment. So by the time the FBI is coming for you, their case is done. They are rock solid. So they have the evidence they need for Brian for the fraud of the credit cards. But they're still probably working right now as we speak on the homicide side of it. Why is it so different? Because the federal government, it's very expensive for federal crimes. It's very expensive because the FBI has the best resources, and they don't want to invest into something that that they can't get a conviction of. And they don't want to have to deal with crimes, cases getting dismissed. So they're going to make sure before they ever try someone and charge them and get an indictment that they can get them. And once somebody's indicted by the federal government, it's an over 92% conviction rate. No, I don't think the FBI should make any statements. The FBI has said what they needed to say. They're not going to say anything about anything because it's still an active homicide investigation. And they have a murderer on the run, an alleged murderer on the run. They're not going to say anything. Yeah. They're also not going to tell you guys how she was killed, because only the murderer knows how she was murdered. And if they release that to the public, then it's public knowledge, and then that can then potentially spoil the case. So they're not going to tell anyone how she was killed, because whoever killed her, if it was Brian, he knows how she was killed. So they're going to wait. They're not going to say anything publicly. Right. Yes, it can create a mistrial. They don't want to release any of the evidence they have either. You guys, what if the campground they already knew about and it just helps them with their timeline? You know what I mean? What if what happened at the campground is just not that significant in the grand scheme of the investigation? Like, what if they went there and they came home and the FBI knows that? You know what I mean? Like, what if the FBI already had that information? You just don't know. And I heard someone talking about how, like, homicide and murder investigations are different. They're not. So all federal agents will be investigating homicide. Like, that's the legal term. And then they can be charged with, like, once the investigation is done and they can determine who murdered it, then it's capital murder. Or it can be first-degree murder, second-degree murder. But the investigation is under homicide. I don't know what's going on. The police chief took a random, like, leave the other day. I think Northport was just in over their heads with the missing persons thing. And I think the fact that Gabby was in so many different places, because she left Northport and they put all their stuff in storage. So they weren't really technically living in Florida anymore. I don't know if they plan to go back to Florida, because I remember Brian saying that they might stay in Portland. You know, they had put all their stuff in storage. I don't think that they were like, and when she was stopped by the dash cam or body cam, she said, like, well, my license is in Florida, but I'm from New York. And, like, her last place that she was with her family in New York. Northport has a history of... Yeah, I don't think they ever saw Brian, honestly. What about his parents saying that they think he's alive? I think they know he's alive, because if you were concerned that your child was dead, would you not say anything? Like, I wouldn't. I'd be, like, running around trying to, like, hit the pavement. They haven't said anything about the trip back, and I think that's purposeful. If you remember, Gabby's parents were talking a lot, and then suddenly they were told not to say anything, and that's because of the investigation. And they didn't want them to say anything about the relationship, because clearly that's about the investigation too. Something happened in their relationship, obviously, and they don't want the public to know, because they don't want it to spoil the investigation. It's like it's so frustrating when you don't know, but it reminds me of, and I've come back to this before, but it reminds me of, and this is different because it's not murder, but child sex trafficking and child sexual abuse is a huge deal. So when Josh Duggar's property got raided, we didn't know anything. They never said anything. They only released a statement that they were, like, at a property of his business as a part of an ongoing investigation, and that was it. And then we didn't hear anything for 17 months until he was arrested. So, and then if you notice, and if you're following my Josh Duggar coverage, their case is rock solid. Like, it is so airtight. He is not going to be able to get out of this. So, it's slow and it's methodical and it's hard if you're the victim. It's hard if you're a victim's family. It's hard if you want justice for someone. But I feel like if you can trust their process, they're gonna, if they do everything right, they can get justice. And they said they're committed to getting justice. And I thought it was interesting because I feel like they know someone helped Brian. Because I don't know if you noticed in the, I don't know if you noticed in their statement following her death that they were committed to holding anyone accountable that was responsible for her death or assisted after the fact with her death or leading up to her death. I just got through a murder trial with a family member and the entire thing was on film and it took over a year to convict. Yeah, trials can last forever. I know. I think we'll start to hear more about Gabby once they catch Brian. But the family isn't going to say anything. And clearly the family is, in communication with the FBI, and they said that they trust the FBI. Yeah, they have to make sure it's airtight. But like in Josh's case, because their case is airtight, he was arrested in April and his trial is next month. Think about that. That never happens in federal court. There are some people that will I just have hair in my face. There are some cases that will just drag on and drag on and drag on. And then there's others that go really fast. So someone asked, how much time is Josh facing? So each charge that Josh is charged with, one is possessing and receiving, or one is downloading and receiving child sexual abuse material, and then the other charge is possessing child sexual abuse material. And I think the downloading one, because he downloaded Daisy's Destruction, and there was children that were only 18 months in that video that were being assaulted, I think the judge said at his bond hearing that on one of the charges, it was 5 years minimum, she said. And then on the other charge, she said it was 20 years minimum if he went to trial, because of the age of the children. The age of the children were brought up a lot in his bond hearing, and the age of the children are a factor in the severity of his charges. The way that they classify how charges are made, and it's all based on the age of the victim of the child, and the younger the victim of the child, the worse the penalties are. No, Josh can't be around his younger siblings. The plea deal doesn't go away until the 18th. So he turned it down, but it stays on the table. And he has until October 18th to change his plea. So they can still say, here's what we'll offer you. It's on the table. This is what you can do. And he can take it, or they can go to trial. And if they go to trial, he's going to get destroyed because the judge is already annoyed as hell. And I was telling someone today that I have covered a lot of criminal cases in the years that I've been doing this. And I know someone said oh, you don't do true crime. And I'm always like, well, I don't know that I'm a true crime person. I do things more as a reporting type thing. But I cover a lot of criminal cases because I like to cover crime. And if anyone's noticed, I've been covering the Duggars because of crime for the last 2 years. So, but this case is just, it's awful. It's awful. So they offered him a plea deal. They said they didn't commit to it, but in April or March, they offered him and they said it would be around 10 years. And it was because of the age of the children. And I think they said when you do a plea deal, you end up having to they knock off maybe 40% of the time. So if he were to go into district court and go through trial and get convicted, he won't get the same leniency. They do the pleas so they don't clog the courts because they know that the cases are so airtight. And when he put in these motions, I've never seen a judge deny motions this fast, ever. I was actually just talking to someone today about that. I said, there's this other case that I followed for years, and I was like, in this one specific case, they would file a motion and the judge would not rule on it for months. And there's this one case I've followed for a long time, and they still don't have a trial date set. And I've literally never seen a judge do this. So Judge Brooks knows of Josh Duggar. He's presiding over the sisters' lawsuit against the city. And plea deal, I think, was 10 years. And they have to do the whole 10 years in federal court if you get a plea. Or 99% or 90%. And he's not going to have time served because he only served 1 week. So that's not going to help him. But anyways, in this case, they didn't order any evidentiary hearings. The judge was just like, these are so bogus. He heard all of them on one day, and he denied all but one. Sorry, my eye is itching. It was an omnibus hearing where they did all in one. CPS cases are not public, so they would never tell us. And as a rule, I don't speculate on children being sexually abused. I don't even know. A couple years ago, I did some education with UNICEF on discussing child victims in the media, and they don't recommend ever speculating on a child's whether or not a child's a victim, because if your child is not a victim and you label them a victim, it's detrimental to the child. And then if you also child victims are protected by the court, so they're not identified. So it would be really irresponsible to speculate on those kinds of things. Could you worry about it? Yeah, but I'll never publicly say. It's why I don't talk about any of the kids around them. I just don't. You're not supposed to. Children should be protected. There were real children victimized in the stuff that he downloaded, and that's all that matters. Just think about those kids. Think about the kids that were victims. She does have her children. I don't know. No, Anna can't stay with him after she has the baby. She cannot. No, there's no strings that Jim Bob can pull. Jim Bob has no pull in federal court, you guys. Federal court is a completely different beast. You can't bribe federal. And the judge that's presiding over Josh's case already knows him and knows that he's admitted to doing stuff to his sisters. The judge does not like Josh at all. Anna does look like she's ready to pop. We just don't know anything. Josh's next court date is his pretrial hearing, which is in November. And he has up until October 18th to change his plea. There's nothing going on with Sophie Long. She's still missing. Sadly. If you want updates on the Sophie Long case, I would suggest the Facebook and the Instagram page, Bring Sophie Home. I do check in with Lisa, the family friend, every now and then to just see how everything's going, and there just hasn't been anything new. She's still missing. And I can't figure out why there's not a felony warrant out for him yet for kidnapping. Family courts are so different. It's weird. I haven't seen a lot with the roll-offs. It's been a little bit quiet lately with that. Sister Wives is coming back next month, so that'll get ramped up. Anna can't stay overnight with Josh if she has a baby. She can't. He's not allowed to live with a child. The kids have to go home at night. They cannot live with him. It's a stipulation of his probation. So, no. If she has the baby, Anna nurses. If you follow Anna, you know that she nurses. She nurses like for the first year. And they co-sleep. And she's not going to be able to stay with Josh. Yeah. All right, you guys, I have to get up really early in the morning. I'm getting my hair cut finally. I haven't had my hair cut in like a year. And I'm getting it colored and I'm getting my eyebrows done. And tomorrow is like a day to just like take care of my beauty. I'm beautifying myself tomorrow. And I'm going to get a haircut, colored, get some damage control stuff done. And yeah, so obviously if you have things that you want me to follow up on, or if there's things, I'm trying to share other missing persons cases. I'm only one person. I can only do so much. It's very hard. A lot of the media outlets that can cover multiple stories, they have multiple reporters on their staff. It's only me, so I can only do so much. And one other housekeeping note is I'm really staying out of my DMs right now, just for my own safety. But I do read my DMs. But if I don't respond, please do not take that personally. I'm protecting my safety right now. But if there are leads and that kind of stuff, I will try to respond, but I can't promise. But if you have things that you want me to see, you can tag me or you can send me a DM. But again, I can't promise I will respond, but I will do my best to try to see them. So yeah, in October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we'll try to do something throughout the month to bring awareness for domestic violence. And I'm hoping to do a pretty significant donation this month for the national hotline, which does a lot. They have loveisrespect.org, which is an amazing project through the national hotline, which teaches teenagers about healthy relationships. So, yeah, I think it's a great resource. So, we'll be doing lots of stuff. But yeah, domestic violence is a very big part of this, what I've always covered here. And we'll continue to bring awareness for it. So have a good night, you guys. Oh, is it breast? Yes, it is. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, too. Oh, so many awarenesses months. But yeah, have a good night, everyone. I forgot how to log out.